On a day in November of 2019, a single shot shattered the silence. A 19-year-old girl, a fierce advocate for women's rights, was silenced forever. That day, she had walked into the home of a man who had threatened her on multiple occasions. Just minutes later, a gunshot tore through the air. What truly happened inside that room? This is the story that shook the nation of Costa Rica. Eva Morera Ulloa was born in Barba, a canton in the province of Heredia, Costa Rica, in June of 2000. She was the third child of Alina Ulloa and Oscar Morera. From a young age, her friends and family knew her by the affectionate nickname Macha, a name that stayed with her and was always used with love. Those who knew her well described her as a joyful young woman, full of energy and spontaneity. She always wore a smile and had a positive outlook, yet she also possessed an innocent and at times overly naive personality. She tended to trust people deeply, even those who perhaps didn't deserve it, a trait that led to more than one disappointment and heartbreak. Eva shared a very close and loving bond with her mother and sister. The three lived under the same roof, supporting one another through daily life. In this family environment, Eva grew up feeling protected and cherished. In 2015, when Eva was just 15, she met a young man named Randall. From the very beginning, their relationship raised concerns among those close to her. Randall, at 20 years old, was 5 years her senior. This alone was a red flag, as she was a minor and he was a legal adult. But there was another, more disturbing aspect. Randall had a considerable criminal history, mainly related to drug dealing. His reputation in the neighborhood was poor, and it was well known that he was involved in illegal activities. That same year, Eva discovered she was pregnant. Shortly after, Randall was arrested by the police, accused of selling crack and marijuana. According to investigators, he distributed the substances in a local park through a network of street-level dealers. The authorities considered him the leader of a fairly extensive drug trafficking ring, and he was soon facing a trial. With Randall in prison, communication between him and Eva began to dwindle significantly. The already complicated relationship grew cold until they practically stopped speaking altogether. Eventually, Eva decided to move forward with her pregnancy and raise her son on her own, with the sole support of her mother and sister. In June of 2020, Eva gave birth to her son, whom she named Ian. It was a momentous occasion for her and her family, marked by both the joy of the new arrival and the difficulties that surrounded them. Just a few months later, in October of that year, Randall was officially sentenced and began serving his prison term. As the months passed, it became clear that even behind bars, Randall had not stopped trying to contact Eva. He used text messages and social media to reach her, but these were not friendly communications. On several occasions, he threatened her directly and also extended his threats to her mother and sister. It is important to note that Randall never directed his threats toward the men in the family. His harassment was focused exclusively on the women. This deeply affected Eva, who didn't want her mother and sister to live in fear or be dragged into her ordeal. In the midst of this turmoil, Eva met someone else and began a new relationship. However, this story also lacked a happy ending. Just a few months in, Eva was forced to seek a restraining order against this new partner, which brought her into closer contact with institutions dedicated to protecting women. Through these experiences, Eva developed a close relationship with the staff at the National Institute for Women of Costa Rica. There, she received legal advice and constant guidance to navigate her legal and safety issues. Little by little, she became deeply invested in the problem of gender-based violence, with a particular focus on cases of femicide. She firmly believed it was necessary to make this crisis visible and a part of the public conversation. Her commitment was reflected on her social media, where she began posting messages that condemned and exposed the violence many women endure. She also actively participated in various marches and demonstrations, sometimes with her young son, Ian, by her side. For Eva, finding solutions to end the wave of femicides was essential, though she recognized the task was extremely difficult. In one of her most powerful messages, she made her call to action clear. "The only thing we can do," she stated, "is to abandon the machista upbringing and refuse to tolerate acts of machismo in any form." She urged that if anyone knew a woman was being abused, they should not remain indifferent but help that person escape her hell. She reminded her followers that staying silent and failing to act in the face of violence makes one an accomplice to the abuser. "Let's not wait for another woman to be killed when we can prevent it," she wrote. Eva also offered words of support to women currently suffering from abuse. She offered them her friendship, her company, and her unconditional backing to help them break free. She promised she would be there, ready to give her all for them, in the hope that through such actions it might be possible to improve even just a little the situation so many women face. It is believed that all the experiences Eva had lived through significantly influenced her academic decisions. Motivated by her desire to help others and perhaps inspired by her own story, Eva decided to study social work. In 2018, she enrolled in university, determined to build a career that would allow her to give her son a better future. Eva pushed herself to be her best, to achieve her goals while also fully embracing her role as a mother. According to the teachers at Ian's kindergarten, she was an exemplary parent, always responsible, attentive, and dedicated. She never missed a school meeting and was punctual for every appointment. Ian always had everything he needed, from school supplies to proper clothing. And Eva was constantly monitoring his progress, encouraging him to do his best in every activity. It seemed that Eva's life was finally heading in a more stable and positive direction. However, that apparent tranquility began to shatter in May of 2019. On the 30th of that month, Randall was released from prison. It's worth noting he did not serve his full sentence. His term was cut in half for good behavior, allowing him to walk free much earlier than expected. Soon after his release, Randall began seeking out Eva and his son. At first, she tried to keep her distance, but according to close friends, she also wanted Ian to have the chance to have a father in his life. For that reason, she attempted to mend her relationship with Randall. However, the attempt was unsuccessful. Eva's relatives recounted that during the months the couple tried to reconcile, there were several violent incidents. On repeated occasions, Randall tried to force his way into the home where Eva lived with her mother and sister, heightening the three women's sense of vulnerability. Randall's threats grew more severe and direct. Eva's sister, Mariana, who was pregnant at the time, received a chilling phone call from him. He told her he could kick the baby out of her womb. He constantly interfered in Eva's life and her decisions, exerting pressure and harassment. Faced with this situation, Eva began to feel a growing sense of dread. The tension in her home was constant, and Randall's presence had become a permanent threat. It was then she began to consider what steps she could take to remove him from her life for good. The act that finally broke Eva's patience and tolerance occurred inside Randall's vehicle. The three of them were traveling together, Randall driving, Eva in the passenger seat, and little Ian in the back. At some point during the trip, an argument erupted between them, quickly escalating in tone. The situation became so hostile that Randall, in an act of violence and contempt, kicked Eva and her son out of the car, leaving them stranded on the road. After this episode, Eva went to the police to file a new complaint against Randall, adding another report to the long list of accusations against him. She requested a protective order and was granted a restraining order that prohibited Randall from approaching both her and little Ian. This complaint was filed during the first week of October 2019. However, less than a month later, on November 1st, 2019, Eva's life would take a tragic and irreversible turn. That day, Eva went to Randall's house, located in a neighborhood called La Mathilde. He lived there with his parents and other relatives. It is known that the reason for her visit was to allow Randall to see his son, even though she knew that in doing so, she was violating the protective measures and the restraining order against him. According to witness testimony from neighbors, they saw Eva in the area around noon. She was inside the house for a short time before an argument began between the couple. Their voices grew louder and louder, escalating into an intense confrontation. According to Randall's own parents, they were in the house at that moment with Ian, Eva's son, and another 5-year-old girl who was Randall's daughter with another young woman. In total, Randall already had 3 children from 3 different relationships, all with women who were significantly younger than him, revealing a repeated pattern of behavior in his life. While the 2 children remained downstairs, the argument on the upper floor continued until, abruptly, there was total silence. Immediately after, a single gunshot was heard. The sound sparked immediate fear in Randall's parents. Moments later, he came down from the room where he had been with Eva and told them he had shot her. Without another word, he ran from the house. It was Randall's mother who then picked up the phone and called emergency services. When the authorities and paramedics arrived at the home, they found a devastating scene. The body of a young woman lay on the floor, showing no signs of life. It was Eva, whose life had been stolen in an instant. Randall had taken Eva's life with a single fatal shot to the back. Shortly after the authorities found the young woman's body, the police managed to locate and arrest the aggressor. During the initial investigation, they also recovered the murder weapon. Randall had hidden it inside a concrete block at a nearby construction site, likely intending to make it difficult to find. However, officers located it and secured the evidence. After his arrest, Randall was taken to the police station. It must be remembered that he had been released from prison thanks to a reduced sentence for good behavior. But his freedom was not absolute. He was on parole. This meant he could not commit even the slightest infraction, as any violation of his conditions would mean his immediate return to prison. The news of the murder spread quickly through the media. As the case was examined more deeply, multiple judicial inconsistencies began to emerge, sparking public outrage. The first irregularity was obvious. From the moment Eva requested the restraining order, Randall should have been sent back to prison. The mere act of harassing and threatening her was a violation of his parole. Yet, for reasons that were never clarified, the judge did not enforce this. Furthermore, there was a serious prior offense that had also gone unpunished. Randall had been in a relationship with Eva when she was a minor, and not just with her. As was known, he had other children with women who were also minors at the time of their relationships. Despite this, no authority acted to investigate or prosecute him for it. Another clear violation of the law was his possession of a firearm. Randall, under the terms of his parole, was strictly forbidden from carrying any type of weapon. However, it was discovered that the pistol used in the murder had been acquired on the black market, adding yet another crime to his record. The media coverage of the case intensified. Soon Eva's story began to cross borders and resonate internationally. On social media, the case generated an avalanche of comments and reactions. Among them, one in particular drew powerful attention and widespread revulsion. Randall's brother, a young man named Esteban Garita, published a message on his Facebook account from prison. In the post, which many described as deplorable, he not only spoke offensively and contemptuously about Eva, the victim, but also about his own partner. The judiciary where this man was serving his sentence launched an investigation to determine how he was managing to communicate with the outside world. Specifically, they wanted to locate the mobile phones that he and other inmates were allegedly using to access the internet and post on social media. According to the official version of events, authorities conducted an exhaustive search of the facility, checking cells, belongings, and common areas. But, at least in that operation, they claimed to have found no electronic devices. The lack of results left many questions unanswered, considering the post was there for all to see on Facebook. In that message, Esteban Garita wrote words that deeply outraged the public. "That's what she gets for playing with men's hearts. It's no secret she was cheating on my brother the whole time he was in jail. Then he gets out and they're together and she's running around with other guys again. As if he doesn't have feelings. And everyone in Barba knows it's true, playing with everyone. Vile. And as for my woman, nobody better be messing with her. I love her more than anyone, more than my own life. But she's been more than warned, she knows it, the day she does something like that to me. But I've never disrespected her, not even with a bad word. She wouldn't lie about it, but everyone has a breaking point." The post's tone was not just a direct assault on Eva, the victim, insinuating she had brought it upon herself. It also contained veiled warnings to her own partner, a chilling display of violent and possessive thought. Furthermore, a new testimony emerged, providing more context to Eva's final days. A law student named Pablo Fallas recounted how, a few days before her death, Eva had sought him out. She asked him to clarify certain points of Costa Rica's gender violence law that were unclear to her, claiming she needed the information for a university assignment. However, upon later learning the full extent of the troubles Eva was facing with Randall, Pablo began to think her true motive might have been entirely different. He believed Eva was secretly trying to arm herself with knowledge, seeking to understand the law and discover what legal tools she could use to protect herself from him. On November 3rd, just 2 days after her tragic murder, Eva was mourned by family, friends, and supporters in an emotional public ceremony. The atmosphere was heavy with grief and dismay, but it was also a tribute filled with respect and honor for her memory. Among those in attendance were prominent figures, including Costa Rica's Minister for Women, who came to stand with Eva's family and show institutional support for a case that had deeply shaken the nation. 5 days later, on November 8th, a significant judicial breakthrough occurred. The presiding judge ordered Randall Garita to be held in preventive detention for 1 year, while the full investigation was conducted. In the same hearing, the judge also settled the matter of Ian, Eva's young son, prioritizing his well-being and safety. It was determined that custody would be granted to his maternal grandmother, who was deemed best equipped to protect him. Since then, Eva's family has not only taken on the responsibility of raising and caring for Ian, but has also shouldered the fight for justice in the young woman's name. Meanwhile, Randall Garita remains incarcerated, awaiting the progression of his trial. What remains now is the hope that Costa Rican law for this type of crime will be rigorously applied and that he will receive a punishment that reflects the gravity of his actions. Eva's case sent shockwaves across the country, not only due to the sheer brutality of the act, but also because of who she was. Eva was an active advocate for women's rights, both in her community and on social media. She was a voice that sought to expose gender-based violence and sound the alarm on the urgent need to stop femicides. Her commitment had led her to participate in marches, debates, and online campaigns aimed at raising societal awareness. In a tragically prescient post on her Facebook profile just months before her death, Eva had shared a reflection on violence against women, making it clear that her purpose was to ensure no other woman would lose her life so unjustly. The case of Eva Morera Ulloa stands as a tragic example of how failures within the judicial system and the lack of effective protection for victims of gender-based violence can lead to irreversible consequences. Despite multiple reports, restraining orders, and a history of serious offenses against Randall, the authorities failed to act with the firmness and speed required to prevent his aggression. Legal inconsistencies, permissiveness toward a repeat offender, and the absence of effective monitoring during his conditional release left Eva exposed to a risk that ultimately cost her her life. This case makes it clear that prevention is the most powerful tool against gender-based violence. Laws must be applied without delay or indulgence when it comes to protecting a person in danger, and protective orders must be accompanied by strict follow-up. It also demonstrates the importance of a society that refuses to be indifferent to the warning signs of violence. Reporting abuse, supporting victims, and demanding that authorities fulfill their duties is a collective responsibility. Eva's life reminds us that the fight to eradicate femicide is not optional. It is urgent and necessary. In your opinion, what must society change to prevent situations like this from happening again? What part of this story impacted you or made you reflect the most? What do you believe is the most important lesson we can learn from this case? Have you ever witnessed or heard a story similar to this one? We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments. Subtitles by the amara.org community.